Carissimi Spazio Fan, sono sempre io, l'arcinoto Jules Frattini, il vostro presidente naturale non elettivo del club Moonbase 99, che viene oggi a presentarvi un nuovo evento online, la SpaceCon 6 bis, che come tutti i bis è un evento, diciamo così, fra virgolette, minore collegato a un evento maggiore che c'è già stato, che comunque ci sarà nel periodo. E come è già successo in passato, sarà online. Online, in questo caso da Los Angeles, con un ospite che è già stato con noi nel 2022 alla SpaceCon 4 e che è la sempre affascinante e disponibile Barbara Bain. Questi eventi ovviamente vengono fatti quando non è possibile avere l'ospite di persona per vari motivi. Nel caso della Bain lei praticamente non viaggia più in aereo, un viaggio così lungo, visto che non è più una ragazzina, sarebbe abbastanza faticoso. Però noi abbiamo avuto la fortuna, grazie anche all'amico Paul G. Benz Jr., di avere per ben 2 volte la possibilità di interloquire con lei, che si è sempre dimostrata squisita nei nostri confronti, e quindi li ringrazio anticipatamente entrambi. Poi ringrazio naturalmente quello che in questo caso è, come anche in altri casi, è il nostro direttore, l'ineluttabile Marcello Rossi, e ovviamente l'insostituibile Silvana Corti, che oltre a fare da traduttrice in questo caso è anche co-conduttrice, e a cui cedo volentieri la parola, ringraziando tutti e salutando chi ci segue. Ciao!
Okay.
Now.
So,
Okay.
yay.
Now.
Hello. So, first of all, Barbara, thank you so much for being here. Greetings on behalf of all the Italian fans of Space 1999. It's always an honor and a pleasure for us to have you here. And the last time we talked was actually about 3 years ago. And this time, instead, we don't have a live audience because this interview is going to be shown later on during our next convention. But we've already gathered a bunch of questions from the fans, which I'm going to ask you now. Okay, so take your time. Don't worry, you can talk freely. I'm not going to interrupt you, so that's okay. And thanks in advance for accepting to take part in this little interview online. Okay, after this little presentation for the Italian fans, here we are.
Tell me the question.
Okay, so the question is actually from Jules, the president of our club. And the question is that in Space in 1999, the moon gets out of orbit on the 13th of September, which we know corresponds to your birthday.
Yes.
So was that merely a happy coincidence?
It was on purpose. It was on purpose.
Okay, it was a clear homage to you as a leading character then.
Not that I can ever forget my birthday anyway.
Yay!
Because they keep adding up enormously. But yes, it was done on purpose.
That's great.
That question? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Jerry Anderson had that in mind when he wrote that, when that happened was September 13th.
Lovely.
Some other year. Yes.
Okay, so, and the second question is, what was the most fascinating aspect of playing the role of Dr. Helena Russell in Space 1999? Well, and how much of yourself did you put in the character, if at all?
It was very, very interesting because I had to find some way to what drove her, how she was driven, what was the need to do something extraordinary. I felt that the character had that need, and I figured that her father was, for myself, it wasn't written, that her father was a scientist who cured cancer. So now what was she gonna do? So that was the kind of sense of what she had to reach for, what her goal was, why she had to be accomplished, and had an kind of extraordinary goal. That idea was involved. The other thing that was very fascinating to me, by the time we did Space 1999, women were beginning to appear more in strong roles on television. I had created a character before that was very unusual for its time, and it was just a few years earlier. And that was the Cinnamon Carter on Mission Impossible, who was there with the boys, the big boys, doing equal work. And that was unusual for the time. So in fact, many people, many women, young girls at the time wrote to me later in life, because I've lived so long now, a whole span of their life, saying that they were, one woman wrote she was inspired to become a part of NASA and had just retired. Wow. So I knew, I heard from that person being inspired by that character. And then by the time it was Helena Russell, there were more possibilities for women to even consider. When I grew up, you could be a school teacher, a librarian, a secretary, primarily a mom, and I don't know much else. Were obvious paths for young girls, and that change is enormous. And obviously it has continued and caused some kind of difficulty for some people to see women taking that strong position in society. But a lot of that was new. And therefore, that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah.
Right.
And do you have any did you enjoy the most playing Cinnamon Carter or Helena Russell, or was it the same for you? I mean, they were both very strong characters, very driven characters. They were role models for girls. Did you have any of the two that was your most favorite or not? I know it's difficult.
They were the things that were offered me. I guess those people saw that in me. I was very young. What did I know about any of that, really? Formally. In other words, I didn't really consider that aspect. It just seemed natural to me because I was kind of feisty young girl who wasn't going to put up with the rules. And I guess that was on me, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so therefore, that was the hard part. And at all, it felt perfectly right. I didn't have to stretch in that regard. I did have to find different reasons for each of those characters and different kind of sense of where they come from and their hopes and their hearts and the prices they had to pay for those things, because those things are all part of a character and part of life. Everything you do has some kind of a price attached. Every character, if you in a drama or any piece of writing, there's a price attached to what that person is trying to do in relation to other people, and generally speaking, upsets a lot of people. There's a different form with television, and the reach to people was something I was rather stunned by in both cases. Actually, the fact that I'm talking to you today,
yeah,
stunning.
Yeah, it's 50, more than 50 years later. Fantastic.
Transmitting those ideas and people being, I received a beautiful letter from China the other day. Very beautiful young girl wrote me about seeing space. It's just fascinating. Certainly I wasn't aware of that at all. And that's been a ongoing surprise. Let's put it that way. The fact that I'm speaking with you today is just fabulous. I can't get over it.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, think
of
the importance.
I lived in Italy, in Rome, for a year and a half, many years ago, and loved the country so much, and the people and the city and everything. And my granddaughter just visited, for she was in Europe with her parents she was just 16, and for kind of a birthday present, they took her on a little tour.
Oh.
And the last stop was Rome, and she loved it. And that meant a lot to me. She brought me back a keychain saying Roma. And the very specific things that I remembered to mention to them to please see this or go to that. She enjoyed, and she loved the city. And that was very meaningful to me all these years later. So I have that very, very deep attachment to the extraordinary time I spent there.
That's fantastic. Yeah. How long did you spend in Rome? Because I know that you picked up a lot of Italian. You picked up a lot of Italian. Wow. Amazing.
A year and a half with a baby. I had a baby with me who's now a very grown woman, who's the mother of this granddaughter. She was an infant. I came to Rome with a baby. And people were so helpful, and it was so, in many ways, confusing, and all kinds of things I had to sort of navigate with an infant. And I learned all the baby words before I learned any other words. I learned words for diapers before I learned hello. So I was navigating a very interesting situation, and found it fascinating, just fascinating, with everybody trying to help. The people were very, and I'm sure still are, responsive and happy that you were, if I was trying to speak with them, whatever I came up with was 3 words. They were so giving and receptive. So that whole feeling at that time, that child took her first steps, her first walking, the Antico Foro Romano.
Wow. Fantastic.
Like that on the cobblestones. Well, how do you recover from that ever? It's part of your life. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very unusual, and it's part of everything. It's part of the mosaic of my life. That idea to see her take those steps. And, we spent a lot of time in the Villa Borghese, baby, things like that.
Yeah.
Very real. And the other fascinating thing, because she was a baby and just learning to speak, I went to a lot of, saw a lot of beautiful art, mostly mother and child.
Yeah.
Christ, mother, child. And she would say, Mama, Booba. Mama, Booba. She was so happy so I could take her everywhere, because she was just at that age where mother and child meant everything to her. So she was a happy person in an art gallery or a church or wherever I went to see everything. So all those experiences, that's why it makes me very happy to even have this conversation with you, because they're part of it,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're also happy that you had such a great time here.
I did.
Fantastic.
People were just so wonderful.
Yeah. We tend to be very welcoming, actually. It's
yes.
I think it's in our nature as Italians to be helpful and nurturing.
I get called to the balcony of the place we were living in, and there'd be a group of people down below, and they'd say, Ecco, guarda Michele. There was a young man standing there, and they were introducing me to this very tall young man. And here's what they said. He's tall, signore, like my husband. Quando il pantalone di signore è vecchio, dai, give him to him.
That's crazy.
Come on.
Yeah.
Young man, and he wants some pants for my husband, but they see in the cleaners that they hang down very low. And they bring me a tall kid. The street life, the camaraderie, the exchange between people. Beautiful. Anyway, so I'm going on about what happened then so long ago, but it never, it's been a great deal to me, obviously.
Yeah. Fantastic, great.
and then you a funny story.
Oh yeah.
Every day was such a story.
Yeah, I could listen for hours.
There's always something exciting. So.
Wow. Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's go back to Space 1999 now. Do you have a significant memory that you're still remembering now from filming? Was there a particular scene or a particular episode that has stuck with you to this day?
So tell me what the question again.
Yeah, okay. What is your most significant memory of filming Space 1999? Was there a particular scene or episode?
One episode from another. I just can't. I can't do it with anything I've done my entire career. When you're doing it, it's the one. You're just so connected to doing that particular script. And I just love doing this work. So it's very hard for me to pick one over another. I don't know. Was that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do that. Yeah. They're all part of me.
Yeah.
Every single role I've played, and there've been very, very many through the years. I think when they, if I drew a painting of an actress, there'd be all these people inside of me. All these characters, all these different pieces of this one and that one. Somewhere in there.
Yeah. A huge puzzle of personalities.
So I just don't paint, so I don't make that picture. But anyway, that's how I would have to describe it. I don't know. I can't pick one from another.
That's
Probably
okay.
The next one will be the most exciting. I just did a television appearance with Billy Crystal on a new show of his. When I say I just did, I did it last year, but it aired fairly recently. And very well written, beautiful role. And so I don't much like to get on airplanes anymore. They've gotten pretty crazy, and the airports are so big, tiresome. But okay, I don't love to fly much anymore, but I got on a plane and went to New Jersey to do that role because it was so richly written. And I had the best time. So, I'm still cooking. I'm still directing. I'm directing a lot in a little theater here with young people, mostly, obviously, almost everybody's younger than I am nowadays. I was always the, youngest one in the room, and now I'm pretty much always the oldest one. And that's kind of weird, but that happens, and there we are. But so I enjoy working in a theater directing as well. With everything's a challenge, everything's a puzzle, and so is it every role. So I like puzzles. I like trying to figure out what that puzzle is and try to bring. When it comes to an acting role, if it's well written, I have to ask myself, well, they could stay home and read it. Why do they need me? What is it that I can bring to it that isn't apparent in the written script, that needs to be there, or has a real understanding of this? So I have to have that question with myself. Why am I there? Otherwise, just stay home, guys. It's well written. You can read it. Why do we go to see Shakespeare anymore? It's very well written. But there's something else the actor brings. And that's what we have to, then it's director. So we honor that. That's what we, care about. I care about, certainly, and so do my colleague.
Yeah. And it's refreshing to find that there are still some very good roles around, because people say that cinema is dead. Instead, it's not. There are still some very good roles for actors and actresses around. Not many, but some.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I can't, talk about anybody else. I can hardly talk about me. That's hard enough. Keep track of yourself. That's my job. I'm doing pretty well with that.
Yeah.
So, there we are.
Yeah. I'm going to ask something about the first impression that you had when you went to England and met Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. Do you remember anything about it?
About what?
About meeting Jerry and Sylvia Anderson before Space 1999. What was your impression of meeting them?
Of meeting who?
Jerry and Sylvia Anderson.
Oh, okay. The Andersons.
Yeah.
Well, it was fascinating. They came from London to meet us.
Mm-hmm.
And they presented this idea. It was very interesting. It meant going to London, family. It meant a lot of things. And it was kind of fascinating. One of the things that came up, I don't know if you're aware of this, you maybe or not, was the costuming. And Sylvia said, the only person I would really consider that she knew of, and therefore could consider, wasn't that she was limited, she only knew of one person, was Rudy Gernreich. And I said, oh, I've known Rudy forever. We're very close friends, really close. We had met in New York years before in the outer office of Harper's Bazaar. He had come to New York to show his clothes. And I was being sent to the head person there, who was a scary lady to all of us, because she was in charge, and I was very young, about modeling there. They're doing their stuff, because I had to model to pay for my dance classes. So we were in this outer office together, and Rudy had his clothes on a rack to show her, and I had me. So he said, do you want to see my stuff? And I looked at it, and it was fantastic. And being a dancer, it was sort of based on dance. There were very clean lines. It was very different for the times. And I told him, oh, I just loved it. And he told me, I'll do well. And we had this big cheering each other up like two little kids in this office quaking. And he did very well, and so did I. And through the years, we always kept touch from that moment. That moment was so precious for two scared kids on the cusp of a career, various kind. So when she said Rudy, I said, well, he had retired by then. And I said, well, I know Rudy well, and I'll talk to him if you want me to. And she said, yes, they said. So Rudy was more than a designer. He was a philosopher. He was a thinker. And I said to him, what do you think people will be wearing in 1999? This was in the 70s. And he said, armor. Think about that. Where are we today?
Yeah.
And he said, but I can't put you in armor because you can't act in it. I have to find something else. And he designed the costumes, and they were made, I think made here and shipped there, half and half, something like that. And he designed the color coordinated sleeve, whichever department we were in, and the zipper.
Yeah.
The zipper, by the way, it would be cold in the mornings, and we put everything kind of on the radiator, and sometimes it was hot, sometimes it would be cold. One way or the other, you knew there was a zipper there. It had a zipper, and but it looked good, and his idea was interesting. Of what he said that, I thought, wow.
Fantastic.
So that was part of the whole thing of meeting with them. We met in our home, and we also went, this is funny. I don't know if anybody cares about it, but it's pretty funny. We took them to a Japanese restaurant. Japanese food had just kind of come into LA in a way that had not yet hit any other place quite. And we took them to a very special place where we sat. There was a table, and we sat on the next to the table with our legs kind of in a well, and very kimono clad people serving us. And that green stuff, if you've had Japanese food, that green stuff, it could kill you if you don't know what it is. And Sylvia took a whole spoon of it in her mouth. And we kind of tried to grab her, stop it. It didn't stop, and all the water came out of her eyes. And there we were.
Was that wasabi?
That wasabi?
Yes,
exactly.
Wow. Oh God.
And it was just, and the girls were walking around like, embarrassed. And we were trying to stop Sylvia from crying, offering her anything. Water doesn't help. There's no bread. What are we going to do? Anyway, I don't think I've ever mentioned that before, but you asked me about their visit here. Their visit had that extra little fun thing in it.
Wow.
Very fancy Japanese restaurant here in Los Angeles. I never forgot that.
Wow.
So,
and so you decided to pick up everything and go to London after all, the family and all.
Okay, this is an adventure.
Yeah.
The idea was fascinating. In many ways, everything about the concept was really interesting. And yes, so we couldn't take animals at the time. We had a number of dogs we had to leave behind. Because at the time the laws there were, you couldn't bring in a foreign animal. You could bring in a foreign person, but not a foreign animal. So we went dogless, and the kids, of course. Though some of the British people asked us, "You have your children with you?" Yes. Oh, they were kind of astonished because they send their kids off to school very young. He said, "No, we have the children. You have them with you." They were like, kind of surprised. It was all very interesting. Everything about the cultural differences, everything about the language, which isn't so simply the same.
It's true.
It has its mysteries.
Yeah. So did you manage to fit right in? To fit in
same
straight
language,
away?
but it is not. So I found, oddly enough, if there were two words for something like tin can, the English took tin. They call it a tin, and we call it a can.
Yeah.
It's a tin of whatever, or a can of soup. So, little things were very interesting, and many. I never drove there. I couldn't. I could not even cross a street there without stopping and thinking, "Oh, where are the cars?" My kids, in 2 minutes, they figured it out. Their brain hadn't been doing what I've been doing as long. So they got it. Everything about the experience was fascinating in many ways. But one daughter came home and said she needed plimsolls. What's that? Hip shoes. Oh, okay. Plimsolls? Never heard that one before. Yeah. So it was a constant, interesting thing. The IRA was bombing a lot, so it was very uneasy in the theaters, and your mailbox was kind of always, what's in the mailbox? There were, elements of danger. There was a big strike at one point. Everything shut down, but we were declared an essential industry. Oh, okay. Lord Lou Gray did that. So we kept shooting half day, I think it was, for a while there, with all kinds of other interesting ramifications, because the whole city, everything else was shut down. So there were all these different moments other than what was on the set that were fascinating. And I'm always, you know, for me, it's just the interesting thing is what happens other than on the set. Wow, there's a whole life around that that's not the same in different places. And I've been in different places around the world shooting, and I find it fascinating. It's just, and I've been lucky that I've been able to do that and see what goes on here. You know, how do they do this here? The show was, we only shot till 5:20 every night. That was another one of the reasons I thought it was a good idea, because I could be home with my kids for dinner. You can't do that if you're doing a television show in America. We shoot till 10 or 11 o'clock at night if we need to. We just keep shooting.
Yeah.
There, no, 5:20. And then if one night a week we could shoot late at the time. I don't know what they're doing now. And that night would be a Friday night, and they'd have to, it wasn't a consensus. Each person on the set would be asked, each of the workmen, each person, each of the crew, can you work late, another 2 hours, something like that.
I see.
Friday night, and one would say, oh no, I'm having dinner with me mom. We didn't shoot. So it was a very different amount of time, which of course is why it took it longer than to shoot anything we would shoot here.
Yeah.
Because we didn't go past 5:20 every single night. That was it, done.
Yeah.
So it took longer to shoot. And that big set, that huge, beautiful, beautiful set. Again, almost every television show shot in here has a small standing set. You get in there, you shoot 1/2 a day, you're out. Every single episode. Now, Space had that gorgeous, beautiful, extraordinary. Well, it took a couple days to shoot in there. You couldn't get out of there in less than. So everything took longer, is what I'm trying to say. And I was just glad that I could be home with my kids. I didn't want to miss those years. I don't know if they wanted me around, but you know, probably not. But I wanted to be there. I felt very, you know, that was part of why I thought, oh, this is a good idea.
Bene, finisce qui la prima parte, praticamente giusto una pausa, dell'intervista online a Barbara Bain. Spero che finora vi sia piaciuto il tutto. Preparatevi perché fra poco comincia la seconda parte. Ci rivediamo là. Ed eccoci qui come promesso per la seconda parte. Continuiamo quindi l'intervista con Barbara Bain per le ultime domande, anche quelle, diciamo così, un po' più strane, che ancora abbiamo in serbo per lei. E di nuovo buon divertimento.
Okay, so we were talking about your experience in London in Space 1999.
Yes.
In the second season, there was a change of pace, and there were more spectacular scenes, more new alien monsters, and they took the place of the psychological depth of season 1. What do you think about it?
Well, I don't know. People have various opinions about it. I thought the changes were not necessarily the kind we needed, but I don't know that. I'm trying to tell you that it was an attempt by Jerry, Mr. Anderson, he had an idea that with the first season, there were things he wanted to change, and he did. He brought in a different producer, Freddie Freiberger, and they changed it. And you know, that's not my decision, ever. You know, that's the producer's decision, and it's hard to say. Some people like both seasons. Some people like the second one better than the first. Again, it's not my really expertise because I'm inside of it. It's hard to then evaluate the change. So it's a preference thing, but I don't have that preference, is what I'm saying.
Okay. And there was a rumor, and somebody wrote it in a question, that there was a rumor that a hypothesis that in the transition between season 1 and season 2, there was a hypothesis of killing off your character, but this was later discarded. Were you aware of this idea, or was it just a rumor?
I don't know about that. Rumors are what they are, rumors.
Yeah.
So I don't give much credence to that. We at the moment in this country are filled with rumors, not much else. So, you know, I don't know what a rumor's value is, if there's any truth to it, or somebody gets an idea and says it and it starts getting repeated. Other than that, I don't know. I'm not a person interested much, by the way, in rumors, gossip. None of that's very interesting to me. It's just tiresome, and I don't find much reason to pay attention to it. I'd much rather read a good book. That's me, you know.
I know you're a great book reader. I remember from last time we talked that you love reading. That's fantastic.
I read Italo Calvino. I read a couple wonderful of your own writers with great pleasure. And you know, like I said, I'd rather read a good book. Bother with rumors or gossip or any of that. It's just, what is that? It's just a bunch of nonsense. So,
talking about the rest of your career, during your career as an actress, has there ever been a part that you chose not to play and later on regretted not taking?
So what's the question?
If during your career there has ever been a part that you chose not to play and then regretted not taking?
There's been a lot of things that I've said no to. A lot, yes. I've been very, if the script isn't good, I'm not interested, period. There's no reason to do it. Some scripts come and you say, why are 100, in those days, early days, there'd be 130 in a crew. And I'd say, why are they getting 132 people together to make this script? But no. There was the question early on of nudity in film. It came up when I was a young actress and just, as they say, very hot in the business. And they asked me to do a couple of pictures that they were going to involve nudity. I thought, well, you know, I don't know. It just happened on Broadway at the same time. And then I said, I don't think so. Let me think a minute. And I thought, then they say, well, we're going to close the set. And I say, well, that's great. We close the set and then we put on screens all over the world. What's the difference? If you close the set, open the set, and don't release the film would be better. Anyway, I started thinking, is this why I became an actress? Does this have anything to do with why I am an actress? And I said, no, it doesn't. I don't want to do it. So I turned down those films, and some of them, they cast some very good people who, you know, wanted to do them. One, a French actress who was very well known. Okay, I didn't bother. I when somebody good is cast in a part that I either lost or turned down. Okay, if it's a good person, then it's like, all right. if it's a really not good actress,
Mm-hmm.
oh boy, really? They picked her. Okay. All right, that's what I wanted to do. It's a little bit of a puzzle. I don't have that kind of, I'm very competitive with myself, but not necessarily with the world. I'm really demanding of myself. But the rest of it is the way it is. I'm not going to argue with it. They'd ask me to do a lot of things that I didn't want to do, and I just say no. And I get a lot of pressure from agents, not so much from manager, mostly agents. And I keep saying no, and they keep calling me and saying, you got to do this. And I say, no, I don't. And so I navigated this whole thing very much how I wanted to, and managed to sustain a career.
Yeah. No regrets then. No regrets.
I'm pretty, what did they call me when I was a kid? They had a word that wasn't very nice about a smart girl. That wasn't nice. And they called us, anybody who had a thought when you were young and female was considered quite unnecessary. They used to tell me in the library, no, you can't read those books. Those are boys' books. What? Why? Well, they were adventure books, and evidently we weren't supposed to have adventures. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I read them. I said, well, I'm going to read every book in this library. And I, of course, couldn't do that, but I had a plan. It was like, why do you tell me I can't read a book? I can read a book. I know how to read. I'm going to read it. So, and the women in the books were troublemakers mostly, and got their comeuppance before the story was over. The boys were considered heroic in the books. I'm talking about the characters. And the girls were considered pain in the neck, and they get their, the scarlet letter. She got it. He didn't.
Yeah.
All of those kinds of Tess of D'Urberville, she was like a pain in the neck because she was strong-minded. What did they call me? Something like that. And they didn't ever say it nicely. It was not nice to be. It wasn't acceptable, really, to have a brain when you were a girl. When, my generation, it just wasn't acceptable. But so what?
But you got your revenge with the characters of Cinnamon and Helena Russell. You got your revenge after all, because those are fantastic characters for a woman.
Yeah,
so
not so much revenge, it's just a chance to express that part of me that was okay, kind of strong-willed and intelligent. Oh, what an idea. Because the women, when I first came here to this city, I came with a Broadway play. And we were going to go back to New York, but the television had just started to, wow. Okay, so one job after another, and we never got back to New York. We became people who lived in Los Angeles. But most of the girls that I played were hookers, dumb blondes. I didn't play many wives saying yes, dear, and no, dear, and stirring a pot. They said I wasn't really a wife. I guess I played a couple spies on Get Smart and another show with the Russian accent. I played almost 10, 12 other things before I got the big show that catapulted me into the world. And they were mostly gangsters, malls, dumb blondes. I played an awful lot of dumb blondes because that's all they were. I was blonde, and therefore it meant I was dumb. The equation in Hollywood, you couldn't be a smart blonde There were, can you think of a smart blonde in Hollywood up until then?
But at the time, that was the cliche, anyway.
Yes. So that was, okay. At first, it was hard for me because I resented it, and then I realized the teacher helped me actually, because it was hard to play. You can't play a part by distancing yourself. You have to sort of get. And then I began to try to understand these girls that I was playing, and why they thought they had the world on a string, but didn't really. I'd find things to do with them, and the work was pretty good. I'm pretty surprised myself when I see some of the old stuff. I'm like, oh, hey, you did pretty well, considering they were kind of a stretch for me to play a blonde. Pardon me, I'm laughing at myself and it, because it was pretty funny. That was it.
Yeah.
Dumb blondes, the turf. I was in a room with another 12 girls. We all would read for the part, and I would get it. And the same thing happened to me young when I went to New York as a dancer, and with Martha Graham. And when I started taking acting classes with Lee Strasberg and a bunch of wonderful teachers, I knew I couldn't do any of it, because we didn't talk as dancers. The music played and we did our stuff. And I loved it so. I'm still dancing, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. I was going to ask you that, actually.
It's a first love. It's a first love. I will be buried in a wet leotard, I swear. Anyway, okay, so I stayed in class for 1.5 years, all day, all night. I tried this, I tried that. We did exercises, we stood on our heads, we yelled at each other all over the city doing scene work. 1.5 years later, I went out for my first audition. First 3 auditions, I got every one of them. I got all my union cards the same week. And I never did any other job but act. I wasn't a waitress after that. There were all the different kind of things. I didn't have to model after that. I didn't have to do anything. I started acting and then never stopped. So talk about lucky. I mean, come on. I did prepare. I didn't know. I didn't know how to do it. I wasn't a kid performer like with people. I was a very shy kid in a room reading all day long. And I think most of those, every character I ever read became part of me. So I think that was part of the yeasting for an actress. I mean, I know that I was Anna Karenina waiting at the train station, and he never showed up. Kamsky never came. Okay. So I cried for her, and I wept for the next one, and I ran off with this one, and I rode a horse with that. I did all those things, I thought. And then I said, no, you read those things. You didn't really do those things. Because it was so vivid to me. It was so part of my life at the time, was reading, and those extraordinary characters in all those books. I just loved them. And that's what kind of yeasted in the actress in me. They were all in there kind of waiting to jump out. So, it all came together in a way that one couldn't anticipate.
Yeah.
And
Fantastic. And you've got a fantastic career. I mean, after all the years, you still do what you love, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're also a theater director. Do you still direct?
Every bit of it is, I love the work. I still have a love affair with the work. I just love it. Each one is a challenge. Each one's a puzzle. Ooh. And each one I learn something. I love to learn. I enjoy it almost viscerally. I love the experience of learning something. So, I'll come in and sit there and get an idea, and what about that idea? I had an original idea, but this one's better. It's fun. It's alive. It's very alive processing. And there's something about on the stage or on film and each take, it's like, it's not exactly, it's like touching time, touching it, not stopping it, just like you're touching it because it's so alive in the moment and therefore so totally engaging. And to have the response I've had my whole life from critics and the audience, fantastic. I play around in my imagination and people like that. Oh, okay. It's just a joy. So here I am, still bubbling away with life. And
Oh, that's so beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, that's the thing I found in your country, but people very much live for the moment. They're very in the, I always thought, now this is going to sound a little funny, but this is my view of people in Italy. If you're a boy and you pee on a Bernini statue growing up, you know you're only here for a short time. You know, you guys know that. We don't know that. We think we're invincible. America has nothing from the past hanging around with us like you guys do. But you know, okay, what the heck? Let's have a good time. Let's enjoy life. Let's eat. Let's sing. Let's smile at each other. There's much more of that in Italy than anywhere that I know. That's why I think it's true. It's that Bernini statue. No matter where you go, there's something to tell you you're just passing through. You're just passing through, honey. You're not here forever, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't have to
Absolutely
instruct
true.
you about your culture, but it's as I see it is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to teach you about your world at all. But
That's
I
fine.
feel, yeah, no, but that's how I sense it being there. That nowness, that what the heck, let's have a good time, you know, as best we can.
Yeah.
No matter what. And the what has been a lot of stuff through the years, you know.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So Barbara, thank you
yes.
so much for everything, really. Because Marcello, I don't know how much time we have. Huh? Can you check? Because
Sure.
quanta... Abbiamo ancora?
No,
it
doesn't give a time. Anyway,
Okay.
at least other 20 minutes if we want.
Okay. Okay.
So what?
Mm-hmm. So I know. I just wanted to know whether you still want to reply to another question or a couple of questions, and then we can wrap it up. If it's fine for you, I mean.
Just a sec. Yeah, we're okay. Tell me what.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Great. Lovely. Okay. So I'm just checking a couple of questions that were given by the fans.
Scusa Silvana, hai letto nella chat quella sul suo make-up da donna delle caverne in The
No,
Full
non l'ho
Circle?
letto, dimmelo. Nella
Dice,
chat dell'episodio.
did she tell you the cave woman makeup story from Full Circle?
Okay.
And
Yeah,
her
people
daughter.
want to know. I'm
What?
gonna. Okay, so there was some of the fans in the chat, and they were asking whether you could tell us something about the makeup thing of the Space 1999 episode where you were a Cro-Magnon woman. Do you remember?
Oh.
Dressed like a caveman.
Yes, I totally remember that. Not only do I remember it, my sweet darling daughter was a teenager at the time. The makeup was extraordinary. I went home with it, not knowing that she had, first time in her life, invited a boy over for dinner. And Mom came home in this ridiculous makeup. She was so embarrassed. But there was nothing, I didn't know she was having a friend over. So I went home with the makeup because it was too much to take off, and I thought I'll get home for dinner in time. So, okay, that was one night that makeup played a part. It was well done, no question, and grubby. And I had to make some kind of grunting noise as a character. And I went up at lunchtime. It was going to happen after lunch, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I, making a really strained, guttural sound. So I thought, well, I better try this in the dressing room. And I did make some kind of crazy noise, and then I was okay to go do it on the set. But I didn't know what I was going to do. It was very interesting. That dressing room, by the way, when I arrived in London, they were making this dressing room for me. And I walk in, and there are a bunch of the men who are called carpenters here are called chippies there. I guess they chip at the wood. That's the way they call them, chippy. Anyway, they were building a whole big thing for me. And I said, well, what's that? They said, we're building you a bar. A bar, said I. I don't drink. I never have. Never took it up. Not good at it. Don't like it. Can't swallow it. I meant a ballet bar. I said, all you need is one dowel and some hooks on the wall. I don't need a whole big thing. They were building me a drinking bar, a bar. I said, no, I don't need a bar. Just a ballet bar, B-A-R-R-E, Anyway, I got a ballet bar so I could stretch, But talking of costumes, one Halloween, we were doing Mission at the time, and the show was very big at the time, and Martin was playing Hitler. Very tall, but Hitler. And I was playing a woman from the time that was done up in a very 20s tight hairdo. And it was Halloween. So we had one butterfly and one ballerina waiting for us at home to walk around the block and trick or treat. And I called Susie, who was, I don't know, 4 or 5, young. And I said, honey, we're going to be late. Your dad's still in makeup. I was okay. You couldn't identify what I was. And she said, well, it's okay. It's Halloween. I said, not really. I can't explain it. I couldn't tell a kid he couldn't walk around the neighborhood like Hitler. That wasn't going to do well. He had to get the makeup off. And I didn't know how to explain it to her. I said, no, I know it's Halloween, but no, we'll be there a little late. Because she was too little, to tell him about.
Not the best costume, no.
Yeah, so that's not a good costume to walk around on Halloween. So those are the things that happen with costumes now and again that you don't expect. So in terms of that ape woman, yes, that was funny. That had ramifications. And I don't think that boy ever got over seeing somebody's mom come home like that at all. Scary.
Yeah. Talking about different costumes, when you were doing Mission Impossible, you had the chance of dressing up a lot, of playing different characters within the character, which was fantastic.
It was.
How do you feel about that?
You know what happened? Oh, I loved all of that. Every bit of it. We had fun with it. I had a wonderful wardrobe person, and she scoured we did it on a very low budget, but we did it well. And she was French. She knew how to fit things, so they really looked kind of swell, even if they didn't to begin with. The interesting thing that happened time-wise on that show was those fabrics came out that didn't wrinkle. And some of the times I was in prison or in some place I had to be all wrinkled, and we couldn't wrinkle those things. She had to spray them with stuff to make them look bad, because they would not wrinkle.
They were too perfect. No.
Yes, because they would begin to make those fabrics on machines as opposed to, and so we had trouble making them look bad. That was kind of fun.
So much fun.
So yeah.
I think we can wrap up everything right now. So thank you so much for the extra time. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Sorry.
Oh, I thank you for being there and being who you are and still wanting to talk to me. That's very, very special for me. You kicked up a lot of wonderful memories for me as well. So thank you as well.
Thank you so much, Barbara. So our
care.
time is running out. We're so grateful for you taking the time to be with us today.
Take care.
And thank you so much. We all love you. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you today. Thank you, Barbara. And I hope to see you again next time.
Yes, indeed.
Ed ecco quindi conclusa la nostra intervista con Barbara Bain, la seconda online dopo quella del 2022. Noi ci siamo divertiti, lei è sempre molto gentile, molto disponibile, anche divertente, è una persona con un certo senso dello humor, come avrete notato. Speriamo ovviamente che vi sia piaciuta. Ovviamente non sarà possibile fare qualcosa di ulteriore a questo punto, perché dopo 2 interviste online penso che gli abbiamo già chiesto tutto quello che potevamo chiederle. La cosa magnifica che potrebbe succedere sarebbe che decidesse nonostante tutto di venire in Italia. Abbiamo visto che lei dell'Italia ne parla sempre volentieri, ha dei bei ricordi da quando stette qui qualche mese tanti anni fa con il suo marito di allora, Martin Landau. Vedendo che con noi si trova bene, non si può mai sapere, chissà che un giorno non si lasci tentare da questa avventura. Comunque per ora la cosa finisce qui, spero che vi sia piaciuta, saluto ovviamente tutti e soprattutto salutiamo la carissima Barbara Bain e la ringraziamo nuovamente. Alla prossima intervista, ciao!